Steven, you think Eminem's the only rapper that could reference Scott Van Pelt on a song?
I think plenty of other rappers could reference Scott Van Pelt on a song.
I don't know. I think he's the only one that could really pull it off.
You think so?
I'm just saying that because we were talking yesterday. Yeah, Eminem drops a solid Scott Van Pelt reference on his song Toby.
I haven't heard that yet.
It's okay. I'll say this: it's better than Houdini.
Oh, all right.
It's more of an old school kind of throwback of let's just get 3 MCs on a track and they'll just rhyme. But the hook is kind of ridiculous. It's Toby Maguire got bit by a spider, but me, I was bit by a goat.
Oh, good God.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's as bad as I don't know if that's as bad as I'm gonna reach in my bag, bruh.
Yeah, I mean that song's more comical and more harkens back to the Slim Shady days. But this new song, yeah, it didn't feel like an. I'll let you listen to it at some point, and you can get back to me and what you think. But it doesn't feel like an Eminem song. It feels like a Big Sean or I don't even know who this guy is. You know who Babytron is?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he's on the song too, and it just feels like a newer hip hop song featuring Eminem, but I guess it's his song.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. No, I still haven't listened to it yet, but I think there's other rappers that could reference Scott Van Pelt. I don't know which ones that would be.
Run the Jewels, maybe?
Are Run the Jewels sports guys?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Killer Mike dropping some football references. Eminem, on the Marshall Mathers LP 2, I remember him dropping, he dropped a Brian Baldinger reference. He dropped an 0-16 Lions reference. Like he was going, I was like, damn, Eminem's a huge NFL fan.
Baldy has had so many current NFL players reach out to him about Baldy breakdowns and everything. They love what he do, but I don't think any of those shout outs can compare to when Eminem references him on a song.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I forgot about that. Like Brian Bald, that's the most
very obscure reference.
That is the most obscure sports. You got to be really inside sports to know who that is, or at least pay attention to coverage around sports, not necessarily be in it. But
I mean, Eminem goes back to, I remember one of his first songs. I don't remember when this came out. I was too young, but one of his first songs ever was "I Just Don't Give a Fuck," and one of the lines is, "I'm screaming at you, players worse than Marty Schottenheimer." So he's always been really savvy in the NFL references.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like the obscure ones. It's better than, I can't even think of an example off the top of my head, but it feels like there's just too many obvious ones. What's my favorite of all time, because I think it has the nostalgia factor to it, is Wale, "Chillin'," featuring Lady Gaga.
Okay. I don't think I've heard that song. I wasn't a big Wale guy.
And he's like, "You suckers mad that you're not me. I remain a giant and you Jeremy Shockey." And that was after Jeremy Shockey went
to the Saints.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I thought that was bad. I thought that was badass. He's also he's a really big Washington fan.
Yeah, he is. I do remember that. He's also a big Seinfeld fan. I remember he made like a whole. I don't listen to his music, but I remember he made a mixtape where it was all Seinfeld beats or Seinfeld references.
Yeah, what the? How do you not like Wale then? I didn't even connect the two. Seinfeld's your favorite show.
I just never got around to listening to him, but I remember seeing like a sketch back in the day where it's him at Monk's coffee shop talking to 4 versions of himself that represent Jerry, Elaine, George, and Kramer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I honestly have never got around to listen to his music.
A mixtape about nothing or an album about nothing. I think that's what it's called.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
It's nonstop Seinfeld references. You got to, come on, man. You got to listen to that. I know you're not a big Wale guy, but come on, you're a big
I don't have to listen to everything that's Seinfeld related, Steven.
Excuse me.
Although I do like hip hop and I do like Seinfeld. So actually, that's actually one of my favorite Chris Rock jokes of all time is when he's talking about just trying to get mixed couples together, and he's like, it's hard to find guys that are into the Wu-Tang Clan and Seinfeld. And I was like, well, that's me. There's a lot of guys like that, actually.
It's everyone nowadays.
Yeah. Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa coming to you on a Sunday. And I want to apologize to our umpireers because a good deal of them got together last night with Stephen and our guy, John Dickinson. It was Ernie One's birthday in Walnut Creek. And I'm sorry I couldn't make it out. We had a barbecue yesterday. I got a little too drunk. And our good friend Craig was going back to the East Bay. He lives in Albany, and he was like, "I'll give you right back to Oakland." I was like, "I can't pass that up." So, yeah, I went home, and I apologized to Ernie One. I hope you had a great birthday party with Steven.
It was awesome. I mean, it's the first time I've been to Mr. Lucky since my birthday that one time, where we
cart.
What?
The shopping cart?
The shopping cart. It was after we went to the celebrity or to the softball game held by JaVale McGee.
Then that's right. Was that the same day?
Yeah.
Jug Life?
Then we stopped off at Lafayette BART and then went to Walnut Creek from there.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, decided to get in a shopping cart to stroll to Mr. Lucky's. And now that I'm here, in Walnut Creek and actually understand the lay of the land, I don't know where the hell we would get that shopping cart. It felt like it was in the middle of nowhere, but Mr. Lucky's was right downtown.
I think we grabbed it from Target and took it all the way to Mr. Lucky's.
That makes sense. Wow.
Yeah.
How do we end up out there?
Yeah, solid times. I remember we were, was it at Mr. Lucky's that we were denied entry because our guy Ratto, not Ray Ratto, but our guy Brian Ratto was wearing a white shirt. And that's a no-go.
I think he was wearing a Jonas Cespedes jersey.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sorry. He was wearing a jersey. They don't allow jerseys in.
Yeah. He asked some random dude outside to borrow a hoodie.
And he gave it to him.
Yeah.
I think Ratto gave him $5 for the hoodie.
Wow, what a deal. What a trade.
Yeah. Steal.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I know that you guys had a fun time last night. Sorry I couldn't be there, but we had a fun time at the barbecue yesterday too. What's up?
Tacky wanted me to tell you to eat shit.
Yes, I figured.
Cool.
And I guess Tacky's wife also was asking JD if I actually consume fecal matter, and I told him to tell her no, I don't.
Yeah, I told her yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I told her.
I guess I'm gonna have to meet her to get the story straight. By the way, a little surprise here. Our guy Greg Silver in the chat. What's up, Greg Silver?
Wow.
Look at this.
The whole JYOM community.
But we had a barbecue at our guy Alexander Scott's place. Alexander Scott, who's filled in on this podcast. And we had a good time. And we did it because we couldn't get together July 4th for a barbecue. Everybody was doing their own thing. I was going to go to Young Tony's place, but I guess that whole party was a parody and not real, to my dismay. Anyway, what did you end up doing for 4th of July, Stephen?
We went to my brother's for a little barbecue.
Nice.
And he ended up purchasing one of those water slides in the backyard, like the big
water slide.
A water slide that was way too tall, just way too tall. No one needed a water slide that tall in that sort of area. But anyway, he put that in the backyard, and I think within maybe 15 minutes of me being there, my poor niece, she hit her toe off the like at the very end of the slide. She hit her toe, and I guess like half of her toenail like bent back. Oh, I didn't see it, but it's like 10 minutes in, there's already someone hurt. And then eventually when the kids were all done and tired and didn't want to play on the slide anymore, it was my brother and I guess you could say his cousin-in-law. They're both they're not big dudes, but they're still just two grown men, and they're just playing on the water slide for the last hour.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, like, the thing about water slides is, so it was like a slip and slide, right?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it was tall as hell. Slip and slide's just on the ground. Like this was an inflatable, like, purchase it for the entire day sort of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, then that makes more sense that she split her nail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing slip and slides on the grass, and that you can get red marks on your chest pretty badly just because if that thing wasn't properly lubricated, then you could easily hurt your chest.
Oh man, if there's like a rock underneath or like a sprinkler head or something,
it would rip, and then the whole thing, water spills all over the grass.
So anyway, it was a fun time.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. How about you?
I had kind of a low-key 4th of July. My little brother wanted me to come meet him in Napa, but at that point it was kind of too late, so I was just like, I'm just going to chill for the day. So woke up and watched the Joey Chestnutless hot dog eating competition, and man, I don't know if you watched some of it too, right, Steven? Because you were still working that day.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would never thought in a million years the guy that would host the event would be as a serious and esteemed as a journalist as Jeremy Schaap. Jeremy Schaap, ESPN, the guy that was basically Bob Lee's fill-in on Outside the Lines, doing very serious stories in sports.
Yeah.
And then always in the field, always talking about like it was more like the business of sports.
Emmy award winning, like almost investigative journalist type.
Yes, absolutely. He basically would be, I don't know if he was ever on the show, but he would be the type of guy that would be on Real Sports with Brian Gumbel.
Right.
And he's the one at Coney Island with Richard Shea being like, what's going on, everybody? We're here live, Coney Island, Jeremy Schaap, ESPN, and Richard Shea. And this is a monumental event because it's the first time in a long time that the great Joey Chestnut is not here. And that's really what the broadcast was about. The entire time they wanted you to know that Joey Chestnut's not here. And almost in a way to judge him for not being there, they gave the details, obviously, for him taking the sponsorship with Impossible Foods. And they just wanted to let the audience know that the biggest name ever in this sport is not here. And they tried to make it seem like we'll be fine without him. It's still going to be competitive. It's still going to be fun. But there definitely was, to acknowledge that so much during the broadcast, it was kind of weird. It was kind of like I think it was kind of like ESPN's way of being like, yeah, like this is definitely not anything that it was in the past.
Yeah.
So who ended up winning? I forget his name. The guy that is the new.
I don't know.
Bertoli, I think his name was. Yeah, not Bertoli, the great grocery store pasta you get in a bag that I eat many a time. But there was a new champion, and he ate 56 hot dogs, which is not nothing to sneeze at. Pretty good.
Bertoletti,
yes. Is he known as Eater X?
No,
that's somebody else probably.
No.
Okay. Well, Bertoletti won. And at first, I tweeted out Bertoletti equals the 94-95 Rockets. And, he ate 58 hot dogs. Okay. Now, that's pretty impressive then. And, yeah, I said he was the 94-95 Rockets because they won the 2 championships without Michael Jordan around. And I was like, you know what? That's actually rude. Because I saw a lot of people go after him and the whole thing. And it's like, if Joey Chestnut isn't there, is it really that big of a competition? And my whole thing is, it's not. But that shouldn't take away from what Bertoletti did. He was there. He accomplished eating 58 hot dogs. I don't want to shit on the man. So props to him.
What a take. What a take. I think Bertoletti's been too disrespected since July 4th. We need to give him his flowers.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's not his fault that Joey Chestnut didn't show up.
Yeah. I will say I went into it with a much more open mind. Normally, I don't really enjoy the hot dog eating contest, at least for the past few years, because I don't think Joey Chestnut I don't think he's ever going to break that world record that he set, eating 76 in 10 minutes. I don't think he's ever going to do that. So really, that's all it is waiting for him to potentially break that record. But I don't think he's going to do that again. So I kept an open mind, thinking that this was going to be competitive. But by the time Bertoletti pulled away, it was for the first half of it, but when he pulled away and those guys like the favorites, like Jeffrey Esper, the guy with the mohawk, the red, white, and blue mohawk, when all of them were kind of reeling, the dude from Australia too, when all of them were sort of starting to get fatigued, Bertoletti pulled away, and that's when it kind of stopped being entertaining. So I did miss Joey Chestnut in that aspect, but it wasn't very competitive. Like it wasn't it was close for a bit, but my favorite was the world record broken by Eric Badlands Booker.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite was
gonna eat with Badlands, compete with Badlands.
And his just listen to how inspirational this message was after he downed 2 gallons of lemonade or 2 liters of lemonade in 21 seconds. Just listen to this inspirational message.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Badlands Booker, a new world record. 21 seconds, a new world record.
Now,
wow.
Notice the kid notice the spiky blonde haired kid to his left. You see that kid?
No.
Go back a little bit. Okay. You see this kid right here to the left, right next to George Shea?
Yeah.
Have you seen the video of this kid just totally yakking?
Yep.
Yeah. The crowd, the Coney Island crowd, he starts to throw up all the lemonade he just drank. And they're like, oh. And then silence for a little while. Yeah. Then he starts to projectile vomit again. And they're all like, yo.
I just love how he already finished it. And the dude, they've still got full liters, really.
Oh, dude, he always has been doing stuff like that. Like I think he chugged pickle juice one year. And believe me, I have partaken in a good pickle juice chug off between me and my brother just to finish the jar off. And it's not fun. A lot of sodium in the face.
Yeah, it's very vinegary.
It's very bad for you. I would recommend drinking a lot of water after that.
Yeah, ew. Because that's what it is. You're pretty much it's like
putting a lot of salt in your face.
Yeah, you're like mixing up water, salt, and vinegar. And then they're keeping
the... Well, it tastes great, Steven.
That's how the pickles stay fresh. But, oh, my God, drinking that.
Yeah.
Like I got pickled onions in my fridge. I'm not about to drink the juice.
You ever eaten a pickled egg?
No.
Oh, yeah. Jacob was asking me about that the other day. I don't know why. But
pickled egg.
He just brought it up. Speaking of Jacob, he also asked me this. When the hot dog eating contest, well, it was on July 5th, so we were talking about Bertoletto winning. And who was the woman that won the female competition?
Mickey Sudo.
Mickey Sudo. She did like 56, right? Something like
51.
That. 51. Okay, nice. So Jacob was asking me, how many hot dogs could you eat in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And I remember we tried doing that on the podcast a couple years ago. I think I only got through one because it was just funny, so I was just laughing the whole time. But if I had to legitimately do it, I initially said I could probably do 15. And then I remember, Jacob and Adam Copeland were both like, that's disgusting. There's no way you could do that. And I was like, I don't know. I probably could. But then I'm thinking now in my 30s, maybe I could do 8 or 7. I don't know if I could get to 10. But yesterday I asked you this, and you said you could do 15.
I think I could. I could. If you gave me 10 minutes to use the strategy that they use, where it's like eating 3 hot dogs at a time and then dipping the buns in water and
so you would do the whole thing. You would put your hot dogs in water.
Yeah, or the bun just to make it go down easier. Probably put it in something more digestible, but yeah, I think I could do it.
All right, fair enough.
It might have also been a little bit of liquid courage speaking for myself there.
I think
I'm not going to say it ends well. I'm not going to say that I'd feel totally normal afterwards. I would probably heave it all up in whatever setting that we're doing it in. But
it doesn't count then.
I think I could do 15. I think I could.
All right, maybe we put this to the test one day.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just think for me, and I think a lot of us, I think most people that don't train to do this, after you put 5 hot dogs in your mouth in a really quick time, you're going to hit a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, dude, do you think Craig is listening to this podcast?
I think so. When he was giving me a ride home yesterday, he told me that he would listen.
Yeah, because he just texted us about having a hot dog contest with these ones next time, the ones that we ate yesterday, and the ones that were just totally burnt because Alex almost lit his whole face on fire.
Dude, the best part of yesterday was Alex being like, "You guys good? You guys good? Does the food taste good?" And he would get his meat thermometer out, and we'd be like, "Alex, those are cooked a little too much."
Yeah. Yeah, but just because the outside's cooked doesn't mean the inside's cooked.
That's true.
I will defend my brothers in meat thermometer arms. I would. I'm a
thermometer arms.
I'm a big believer in the meat thermometer.
You know, I don't have one, and I don't really, you know, I do not frown upon people that have those. I would just say, you know, you can gauge by looking at a piece of meat if it's good.
Well, Derek, I'm not going to reveal the way that you cook steak. Jesse told me how you cook steak.
Oh, I will.
I am genuinely offended at how you cook steak.
There's no reason to be offended, Stephen. I cook steak in my own unique way.
Yes. All right. Please tell the people how you cook. I wasn't going to reveal it, but if you feel comfortable sharing this travesty that is you baking a steak.
It's not travesty, man. It's different strokes for different folks. Okay. So I cook my steaks in the oven with a broiler. And I've been doing that for a good deal of my life.
For how long?
Since I've been cooking steak, probably since college.
No. I mean, how long do you put the steak in the
20
broil?
minutes. 20 minutes.
20 minutes in the oven.
Yep.
All right.
Till it's nice and toasty. And hey, listen, I had to find ways to cook steak at my old place because I had a communal kitchen. So, and I didn't even have an oven. So most of the time I had to air fry my steaks. How do you feel about air frying a steak?
I'm sure it dries it out. I'm not like totally against it if that's all you got.
Okay, so pray tell, Mr. Gourmet Chef, what is the best way to cook a steak?
On a pan. On a pan, you season it with some salt and pepper. You get it on a steaming hot pan. You put a little oil around
cast iron skillet's probably the best.
And then maybe you get a little thyme, a little garlic. Then you flavor that oil up. And then once you sear it, so you do it like 3 or 4 minutes per side. And then once you're done doing that, that's when you put the butter in, and then you start to baste said steak. You do the little trick where you like hold the handle, then you get all the butter to the bottom, then you baste it, and then you put it out on the cutting board and you let it sit. You do not eat it right away. You let that steak sit. You let the juices soak through it. You let it cook a little bit more. It still cooks when it's on the cutting board. I'm not going to broil it for 20 minutes inside of an oven. And AJ said, "Oh, I thought Derek was going to say he microwaved his steaks."
Well, I do after the 20 minutes. Pop it in the microwave for about a minute, then it's good to go.
All right, cool. Any seasonings on that? Do you do?
Oh, of course. I do a little steak rub on there.
That makes it better.
Yeah. No, I understand. If I had a grill, I'd be grilling my steaks.
Yeah.
I have a communal grill at my new apartment complex, and eventually I'll get around to doing that. But okay, so have you put a grill on a pan at your apartment complex?
A grill on a pan?
Sorry. A steak on your pan.
Yeah.
Okay, how much smoke does that accumulate?
I will say that reasoning is, if you don't want this, it does. Okay. There's a lot of smoke involved, and I do have to open the patio door and maybe the front door of my apartment just so the alarm doesn't go off, or
that is
illegally take off the alarm and hide it so it doesn't.
Ooh, don't tell them that.
I know, right?
That is 100% the reason why I broil my steaks in the oven as opposed to put it on the on the pan, because yes, the steak is 10 times better when you put it on a frying pan. But the amount of smoke that accumulates in a apartment complex, you could, trigger the alarms, you could piss off your neighbors. Yeah. I just have tried to avoid as much as possible. So I put it in the oven. And hey, still a good steak to me.
Derek cooking steaks like MacGyver.
Or MacGruber even.
Yeah, I'd say it's much more MacGruber than MacGyver. But you know what? You got to do what you got to do. If I had the option, I wouldn't eat steak at all if I had to broil it for 20 minutes. You know what? I'll turn it around. That's a real dedication you have to steak. If you feel like you can't cook it the proper way, you got to get your red meat in. All right, fine. If it takes a 20-minute broil, which I've never.
You act like that's like so much time. It's 20 minutes.
It's a lot more than you need. Like, you could.
Yeah, I know. You cook a steak much quicker on the frying pan. I get that, Steven.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to be an asshole and have a bunch of smoke accumulate in my apartment.
That's fair. That's fair. But and I'll say this, as much as I'm grilling you,
yeah,
pun intended, I don't cook steak that much. It's a little too expensive for me.
Okay.
I'm if you're looking for a great air fryer recipe, I cannot recommend frozen salmon enough. Frozen salmon, whenever it's on sale, grab it from your grocery store. Freaking put the air fryer at 390, right? Put it skin side down, let it run for 6 minutes, and then from there you make like in between that little 6 minute time frame, you make a little glaze. Then you put whatever seasonings and glaze that you want on the salmon after the 6 minute mark. Then you put it in there for maybe another 6-7 minutes. I tend to use a meat thermometer to check if it's ready or not, because you can tell at 135 that fish is ready. I think it's 135. So I highly recommend that because it works and it's quick. You do it in like 15 minutes.
Let me ask you this. This is a meal that I have quite a bit. Probably going to have it later today. Do you ever just have ground beef and rice and mix it together and that's the meal?
Oh, yeah.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but get a little ground beef and then mix it with a little gochujang paste, which is like a Korean chili paste. And then you put some frozen peas on it, put it on a thing of rice. Yeah, man, that's a great meal.
All right, then. Good. I'm glad I wasn't a weirdo in that regard.
No, it's perfectly normal. I think we need to normalize it, actually.
Okay. There you go, man. Eat your ground beef and rice, people. All right.
Have you ever eaten like have you ever eaten like the ground chicken? It's weird.
Ground chicken? No, I don't think so.
They have like ground chicken, ground pork, ground lamb, all that sort of stuff. Ground turkey. Ground turkey is the popular one, but ground chicken is weird. I don't know. It's like dry. And
Tacky's here with a great comment. I know a meal Derek has all the time. What's up, Tacky?
Yep.
All right, let's talk a little sports, shall we? So
I'm good with talking cooking for the rest of this time, to be honest.
Hey, man, I mean, not a lot going on these days, so by all means, we can talk more goofy shit.
It's like I just watch YouTube videos of cooking all the time. It's really weird. It's like a comfort for me.
No, I've been telling you, like I'm gonna go see my mom in a week, and I will be watching a lot of Food Channel because that's what she loves to watch, and it's something that we can be in the middle on. Where, I can't watch anything on Bravo. I hate all those shows. My mom puts on Food Network, and I'm good. I can watch B. Bobby Flay and guys grocery store games or drivers dine-ins and dives. Did I say it right finally? And yeah, so I do like, I'm not a TikTok guy, but I will look at the little YouTube short clips, and there's the guy that those really, we talked about this before, but the ASMR videos where you hear like the guys making the food and it's really like fast paced.
Yeah.
And it's like weird. Like that's where I found a good ground beef and rice recipe. And there's a few people that I like watching, food stuff with. But yeah, I'm getting into cooking a little bit more, Steven.
As you should. I think everyone should. It's much needed. And I'm just going to say this as we get into sports. Looks like the Cleveland Guardians were, let's just say they were ready for this jelly. Yikes.
Oh. Did the Guardians take the lead?
They took a lead with an old 3-run home run. So
5-3, bottom of the 6.
5-3.
Real quick, what do you think about the job Stephen Vogt's been doing? It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive. I think they have a very good team, but I'm not going to act like I know everything about what managers do, right? Because I think there's a lot of intricacies to it that we just don't appreciate. But if you're looking for a guy that's going to connect with his players, galvanize them a little bit, and I mean, it's perfect because he's a veteran catcher. It's crazy that he didn't get started with the A's until he was in like his late 20s. That's when he really burst on. Remember that? He was like 29 or 30 years old when he first got started. So he's always had that like veteran savvy. I can't say I'm like too surprised that they're one of the top teams in the American League because they just got a damn good roster. But it's also kind of crazy with that starting rotation and the fact that there's been like couple of injuries to it. So remarkable job for what he's done. But I'm also not going to act like I've watched every Cleveland Guardians game. But I'm going to be a broken record. I think I told Dearney's this and Tacky this at Mr. Lucky's last night. But Stephen Kwan, like hitting 366 or whatever it is, and he's just hailing from Fremont, California, Washington High School. Like growing up in Fremont and playing Little League there was always the league Niles Centerville, which is basically like the Little League for that district. And those kids all went to Washington. They had this just collection of studs on that team. And I think it carried down to the lower levels. I think he's like 3 years younger than we are. So it's wild that you see something in Little League, you're thinking, God, these guys are really good. And no, it's not just an age thing. Like there's been 3 or 4 of those players who actually went on to play in the pros. And Stephen Kwan, I think, is really kind of the best of the bunch. It's wild to see what he's doing.
Yeah, it's funny how Stephen Vogt probably galvanizes a team a lot better than Gabe Kapler, because he's just a regular guy. Like Gabe was just too much of a robot and, perfect physique. And while, like he was a former athlete, there's a lot of things that he could probably help with. At the same time, like Stephen Vogt, he probably has the locker room all together because he's doing great Chris Farley impressions, while Gabe Kapler's losing people because he's doing TikTok videos.
I think he still does the ref.
I would imagine from time to time, just to loosen up the clubhouse, he probably, goes into a Chris Farley impression.
When they do show on Twitter some of those old A's commercials, those were fun teams in the early 2010s. They really were. And when Stephen Vogt went on Intentional Talk along with Johnny Gomes and did his NBA ref, for which they ended up making a bobblehead, that was some of the best of times in A's history.
Oh, yeah.
It's on and off the field. That team was a lot of fun to watch.
They were fun, and they were worth talking about here and there. But tough times have changed.
No, there is something to connecting with the players, though, and I think Josh Naylor, Bo Naylor, the Naylor brothers. I think
Naylor.
Naylor, Naylor. Josh Naylor's insane.
Yeah,
the one brother's insane. Like, just look up videos of Josh Naylor. But Jose Ramirez, I think, has always been one of the most underappreciated superstars in baseball. For whatever reason, I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. They got a great team, got a great coach. It's going to be exciting to watch them in the playoffs this year. Should they make it and not, have some sort of epic slump to close out the season.
Right. So things are official in the NBA finally. All the free agency moves are now can be discussed.
Yeah.
Which brings me to an interesting thing that happened this past week when Klay Thompson signed with the Mavericks. Tom asked Steve Kerr to go on with us on Tuesday, or maybe it was Monday. Actually, it was Monday, and Steve just wants to come on because he's good buddies with Tom, but I wasn't aware that the timing of it was going to be rough because he can't really say anything because you can't say anything about your team at this time. So we had to skip on that interview, which was unfortunate, but we didn't want to put Steve in a bad position. But now everything is out in the open, and the Warriors have done a lot of tributes to Klay Thompson. And before this time period has ended yesterday, when Steve was meeting with Team USA in Las Vegas and gave his spiel about Klay Thompson and moving on, Draymond Green addressed it on his podcast. And it's, Draymond was very open, and it's honestly the most sad I've ever heard Draymond. I hadn't listened to his podcast in a good deal of time, but I wanted to listen to this one because I saw all the clips and I just wanted to get the full context. But yeah, he sounded very sad and also happy for Klay at the same time. And that's all you expect. The biggest thing to come out of it, though, was, he was talking about, how, Klay felt disrespected and how he had to make the phone calls to him and Steph and just tell him, he's moving on. And that reminded him a year ago when he told Steph, and Klay that he was going to go sign with the Memphis Grizzlies. And I was like, wait a minute. What? And he kind of like when he says that, he kind of like reveals it without kind of like realizing like, oh shit, I don't think people realize that this was actually going to happen. And then I wonder what happened in the end where he got the money he needed from the Warriors, because it always sounded like he was going back to the Warriors. If he went to the Grizzlies, God, with how, volatile that playoff series was 2 years ago with Ja Morant and everybody, and, the back and forths, all the, did they go after Jordan Poole? Did the Warriors go after Ja Morant?
His relationship with that fan base.
Exactly. Yep. Calling out the Grizzlies fans. I don't know what time period that was, but that would have been very interesting if Draymond Green left for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Sure, but I kind of took that in a weird way, because it's like, all right, Draymond, way to kind of make. I didn't listen to the podcast, but the one clip that circulates, it's about him. It's somehow, I don't know if he meant to do that, but this is about Klay, and we learned something that he could have gone to Memphis last year. I really paid no mind to it, because cool. You also said you thought about retiring. Like okay. So you didn't. Now you're here. Like it doesn't do anything but hurt his stock with Dub Nation. Like, good God, man. They're already kind of blaming Draymond as not the sole reason, but a huge reason as to why this dynasty has kind of run its course. And the faith that the Warriors put in Draymond, like all that stuff, the money that they invested to him. I saw that and I was like, okay, cool. All right. I think there's a lot of people who might be interested in hearing what he has to say from his podcast, because they're not entrenched in Bay Area stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of thing where I'm just like, all right, cool. cool, man. I didn't really have much of a reaction to it.
I didn't either. I mean, I thought the only thing I was just like, I just kind of raised my eyebrow, being like, okay, well, we know that wasn't really reported, but good to know that didn't happen. And I wonder at what point did things change? Because when you call somebody to say I'm leaving, that seems pretty definite.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how early on in free agency that happened, because if I remember correctly, Draymond Green signed very quickly after the start of the free agency began.
Yeah.
So, he's also kind of saying what we all know, that there's tampering, and he got offered a contract well before the appropriate time.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, it's not about Draymond. You're right.
No, well, but at the same time, like, I think this makes the Klay thing a lot harder to deal with, because it feels like, based on the reports that came out, The Athletic, or the New York Times, whatever you want to call it, doing a fantastic job really breaking everything down. Marcus Thompson's piece was awesome. Then Anthony Slater and Shams Charania, wrote that piece about, contributed rather to that piece about how Klay, his camp, offered them 2 years, $20 million, or 2 years, $20 million each year.
Yeah.
And obviously the Warriors didn't, or was that the ESPN piece? There's so much about that came out. But anyway, point being, with those 3 articles that came out and what we know, it feels like Klay wanted to be a Warrior for life more than Draymond did. The fact that he's been so open and willing to discuss that he's been wanting to go elsewhere, Klay didn't really do that. Klay sort of said, I want to do what's best for my my well-being. Of course, I want to be a Warrior for life here, but he didn't mention any other teams. And I do think that the fact that it didn't seem like Draymond wanted to stick with the Warriors as much as Klay, yet the Warriors wanted Draymond more than they wanted Klay, I think that's just it's kind of just a bad mix. Like, it's a mix that it's a mix that's one that I think about. I'm like, God damn, like, it's kind of cold-hearted.
Yeah, it is, but also in the end, Klay Thompson did. It sounds like from everything you read, he just made his mind up that he just wanted to go.
For sure.
He felt the whole, the disrespect of, I guess, Jordan Poole getting a contract before him, and Draymond getting a contract before him, and the offer that
both him and Draymond, according to those reports, were picked off that Poole and Wiggins got rewarded for what they did, and Green and Thompson didn't. Especially knowing that it would hamstring the Warriors for the next couple of years to get them paid again.
Yeah, but also I would say that's they were the younger players and they were thinking about the future, and those guys were coming up on free agency within a year. They still had a couple years to figure it out with Draymond and Klay. So that's I wouldn't blame, then they should be mad at Bob Myers then. But Bob isn't there. So, because that's the guy that gave out the contracts. So, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think Klay was just, I guess Richard Jefferson went on the NBA Today and was just like, I remember seeing Klay Thompson at Christmas. And I said, what's up, Klay? How's everything going with the family? He goes, man, I'll be happy as soon as they pay me my money. It's like, damn, that's on Christmas Day, and Klay's feeling that way. So it sounded like there was nothing the Warriors could do. It sounded like he was just so put off by their direction and their priorities financially, and he just wanted to go, which we've talked about ad nauseum. I get it. And Klay's going to move on. He said great things in his post about loving the Bay Area, loving the Warrior fans, and what this organization's meant to him for 13 years. And now it's time for him to move on. And yeah, Captain Klay out, or whatever he said, see Captain out. So he gets it. He'll go on to Dallas and wear number 31 and be fine. And the Warriors got to move on as well.
His appreciation for life is infectious. I'm just watching old clips, man. The one that the Warriors posted a couple of years ago when they just like followed him on his way to practice from his boat, and they followed him on there. Obviously, his live streams where he brought on like James Wiseman and Moses Moody onto the boat. The first one where he lost his hat on the boat, his championship hat, all those things, man. I did get a little sentimental watching all of those over the past. I know he got to move on, but I just don't know if I'm ready to yet. I'll move on when the season starts, but I'm just not ready to really move on from that quite yet. But you don't think there was, because it did sound to me like he was willing to give the Warriors a chance, and the Warriors just weren't willing to play ball. Like that's what it sounded like based on
which article are you referring to?
I'm talking about the Ramona Shelburne one, where they said, or she said that along with Kendra Andrews, that Klay's representation said 2 years, $40 million. That's our final offer, and they just said we can't do it yet.
Well, then I get Klay's anger with that then. But then you read this Anthony Slater article with Sam Amick, and it sounds like basically Klay was done as soon as they offered him 2 for $48.
Right.
So a lot of differing reports.
Right.
In the end, Klay's gone. And I know they're going to have to find another, like, Steph is likable, obviously, because he's fantastic, but as personality wise, he's not the fun-loving guy that I think most people gravitate towards. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see who's going to be that guy going forward with the Warriors. Who's the guy that fans are going to be like, I love that guy, just because of not who he is on the court, or maybe equal parts on the court and off the court. That's going to be hard to replace.
I don't think he is replaceable, man.
Yeah, I
don't think you're going to. I don't think you're going to see a personality like that. I mean, if you're talking about just favorites in terms of who he is off the court, I'd probably put Gary Payton II in that category, just because he's from the Bay and
it's so different though, because Gary, no one's as goofy as Klay on the team right now.
No, not at all. It's crazy how much it's flipped though in terms of their belief in their younger players. It's like all last year, all we're hearing is play the younger guys. And now that you let go of Klay and you filled it with Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, and DeAnthony Melton in exchange for basically Klay and Chris Paul, it's essentially what you're doing. Obviously, some draft picks are included in that. But I personally think that's kind of an upgrade. I know we don't like Kyle Anderson too much, but that dude can give you a random bucket when you need it, but he's also very savvy defensively. Same thing with DeAnthony Melton. And then Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is still a lights-out three-point shooter. So you really, I think I don't want to say you upgraded, because you can't replace 2 future Hall of Famers, but they're not playing like Hall of Famers on the back stages of their career. I think you at least broke even here. So just this whole thing with trading for Markkanen, or you're not going to get anything done. Well, where'd all the faith go in Kuminga? Like we were talking about Kuminga getting a max extension earlier in the season. They were talking about it on Dubs Talk with Karras. I think Monty was there, and I forgot who else. And that's kind of what first sparked my whole thing with Klay and seeing all those championship photos or banners or whatever it is, just being reminded of what was. Well, Kuminga said, this is what I want to be. Yeah. So I figured I didn't even think that, that it was a wide, how should I say it? I didn't know that a large majority were just willing to trade them. I wouldn't have guessed that at this point in the offseason, but I think we're all kind of losing our minds in terms of what the Warriors need to do.
Yeah, as far as the additions of Kyle Anderson and Buddy Hield, I am not a big Kyle Anderson guy. And maybe this is just my bias of a couple years ago when the Warriors did play the Memphis Grizzlies and he was on that team. And they were leaving him wide open because they did not respect his shot at all. And it was a funky looking shot. And then this year with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he did improve. I will not debate that. There were moments where I saw him in the playoffs and he was a better player. Even Draymond said, I think at one point when they were down 0-3 to the Dallas Mavericks, that the ball needs to go to Kyle Anderson a little bit more. I don't know if I love just the guy named Slow-Mo, though, as one of the guys on the team. That just I don't like that nickname because that just means that he's slow.
Well, he's not going to be there for his offense, though. He's there for his defense, and he gives you a little bit of that from that forward position. There's no doubt that Kerr's going to have to figure out a way to not put Draymond, Looney, and Kyle Anderson on the floor at the same time, because then you just got three real non-factors on offense. Like, you don't want to do that.
I also wonder the days of the Warriors playing at such a high tempo, that's going to be gone as well, which is how with the age of the team. But yeah, he can't be on the court if they're going up and down the court like that. Right. But I am acknowledging that my bias of him is based on the way the Warriors viewed him, and I guess they view him in a different light now. So he gets a 3-year deal. Buddy Hield, he gets a 4-year deal. There's a lot of stipulations. 2 years as an opt-in, opt-out, whatever the hell. He's just here, sign and trade. They move one of the second-round picks they got from the sign and trade with Klay. So he's on the team. He'll be a off-the-bench three-point shooter. He's not, going to replace Klay Thompson as a splash bro. We won't give him that title. At least I won't. But he's a good three-point shooter. Defensively, he's not very good. It's kind of like getting D'Angelo Russell, I would say. So I'd say, yeah, they're minor upgrades. I think the big move that everybody's waiting for is Lauri Markkanen, and if that's going to happen or not. And it sounds like, from reports, a substantial offer has been made by the Warriors that includes draft picks. So if you want to give up your future, that's the way to do it. Also, it sounds like you've heard, differing things. As of now, it sounds like in order for them to get him, they would have to give up Kuminga.
We were making that comparison to the Giants last year or last podcast, right? The Warriors and the Giants contracts. Well, yeah. Sounds like the Warriors are being used for the leverage here, because the Warriors were the only name mentioned. Oh, and the Kings are here. Oh, wait, now it's the Miami Heat. Now it's the San Antonio Spurs. Feel like the Warriors, just because they were in need, the agent said they told whichever insider, we got we got a pretty good offer here from the Warriors. You might want to get that out there, just so these other teams are like, ooh, we don't want the Warriors getting Lauri Markkanen. Maybe we need to up our ante a little bit. Maybe someone from the Jazz is leaking that. They do want a haul. Why don't we call it a King's ransom? Huh? What are all these different names for these types of trades, Derek? I mean, there's always the Godfather offer, the offer they can't refuse, which ends up getting refused 90% of the time.
Yep.
The King's ransom. This one, it's just a haul. You want a haul for Markkanen. That's it. It's just a haul. Nothing more.
There should be something more,
something cooler.
Yeah. Well, so there's something like a alliteration we could put for Markkanen.
Yeah. Or like a finishing offer. Because he's finished. His nickname's the finisher. Not good. Okay. All right. We're moving on.
No. I didn't realize at first, but now that you explained it, I understand.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is with the marketing thing, I watched him way more on the Bulls than I did with him on any other team. I didn't really watch him with. I think he was on the Cavs after that. I think he was on the
Jazz this year.
Then he was on the Jazz. I didn't really watch him much. So, though I love the talent and I love the gravitas that he brings, I love the fact that he's 7 feet and can do a variety of different things on the court. I don't know 100% if that's going to be like the perfect fit for the Warriors. I think we're just taking a lot of word for it that he'd be the ideal fit without us really knowing whether he'd be the ideal fit or not, which is raising our expectations, which was setting us up for failure throughout this season in terms of how we watch this team.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if it comes to fruition. If I were the Utah Jazz, I wouldn't want to give him away.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems like a perfect guy for that team, and it's all about, I guess, whether or not they want to give him a contract extension. And that's another thing the Warriors would have to be willing to give that up.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know what their future looks like. I don't know what their, what their money under the tax apron looks like.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Spurs and I got Chris Paul, I got Victor Wembanyama, I think I'd almost do everything in my power to get Lauri Markkanen. Like with Chris Paul and Wembanyama, you're not moving up from one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. You're maybe 11th or 12th. I don't know if you're going to be competing, maybe 10th. But if you bring Markkanen to the team, and I just said I don't really know much of the talent and know the fit, I don't really think you need a schematic fit to work with Wemby and Chris Paul. I just think those, if you mix that in, like you're going to be in pretty damn good shape this coming season. And I might have the Spurs a lot higher on my Western Conference predictions than maybe I would without Markkanen.
Well, what about Harrison Barnes, though?
Harrison Barnes is interesting.
Well, that's so. I would say yesterday the moves that were made in the NBA kind of signal that maybe the Kings and the Spurs are out on Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah. So the DeRozan trade.
Yep. DeMar DeRozan. He makes an appearance in Kendrick Lamar's "Not Like Us" music video, and apparently he's one of. I mean, this is a big pickup for the Kings. They haven't had a big free agent signing like this in quite some time, where someone was willingly wanting to go to Sacramento. And DeRozan's from Compton, not exactly Sacramento, but he likes the area. I guess he has family in Sac. So yeah, he signs a 3-year, $76 million deal to go to the Sacramento Kings, which he's a 34-year-old player, and he's kind of in the downward stage of his career. I would say still a solid player, but that's kind of an overpay, but whatever. And part of the deal is that DeRozan got traded to the Kings. It was also part of a sign and trade. So he goes to the Kings, and Harrison Barnes goes to the San Antonio Spurs, which I think is actually a pretty good move. And then there's other moves along the way where the Bulls get, I think, some draft picks. But yeah, DeMar DeRozan goes to the Kings. Harrison Barnes goes to the Spurs. So maybe those teams are out on Markkanen at this point with making that acquisition. But I saw a lot of people yesterday say, like, damn, this is the biggest moves of the West so far. Like, Carmichael Dave was like, the Warriors, the Clippers, and the Lakers now are playing for second in the California teams. Right now, the Sacramento Kings are the number one team in the West. Or just the not the West, but the California teams. And I'm like, I don't know if you could say that. Like, I get that, De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan gives you a pretty good, 3-man group, and they also got other players, Malik Monk. But I'm not ready to say DeMar DeRozan makes them the best team in California. I think that's right now, yeah, maybe. But let's see what else happens this offseason. But also, I wouldn't say like that's a huge move that catapults the Kings atop of the West in general.
Not the top of the West, but I think among the California teams, yeah, I'd put the Kings up there.
Okay, he's not wrong in that regard.
Clippers are going to be terrible. Like they're not going to be good. Yeah. I know Kawhi's there, but I don't think the Clippers are going to be very good. That Paul George move was stupid. Like letting him just walk without anything in return is stupid. No, that was dumb. And then well, they
didn't want to help out the Warriors, which I get.
And then but then there's the Lakers, and we saw what the Lakers did last year, and you're just going to have to rely on another healthy season for LeBron and Anthony Davis. And then yeah, I mean, the Warriors, I don't know what to expect from them next year. I'd put the Kings right there at the top.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as far as the California teams, okay, I guess that's not that far off. But
That's not
also,
that far off.
I would also say, like, give it time to. Let's see what else happens this offseason. If Lauri Markkanen goes to the Warriors, then how are we seeing things?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting to see how Mike Brown runs that because Domantas Sabonis, I haven't really seen it as much with the Kings as I did with the Pacers back when he was running things there with Halliburton. But God, just letting Sabonis work off the elbow, dribble handoffs and all those different things, getting DeRozan an open look and from mid range. I mean, God, I don't know what to expect from the defense. I don't know about that defense, but all I know is that offense is going to be that's going to have one of the highest offensive ratings in the league. I'm very much certain of that. But their defensive rating is also going to be super high too, which is not a great mix. But God, that's going to be an interesting offense to watch for sure.
Is there any right on this? Is it pronounced Lowry, like Mike Lowry?
It is, yeah. I always call him Lowry. I call him Lowry or Lowry. It's like a tomato situation. I'm still getting used to the Lowry thing. He claims that Bad Boys is his favorite movie, so he always says Mike Lowry.
No way.
Yeah, he uses that as an example.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And any desire to see Bad Boys 4, whatever it's called?
Nope. I haven't even seen Bad Boys 2.
What?
Yeah.
Bad Boys 2 is actually good.
I know.
I'll be like Nick Frost in Hot Fuzz. You ain't seen Bad Boys 2.
You ain't seen Bad Boys 2.
It's off the fucking chain.
Yeah, dude.
Bad Boys 3 was awful. Just awful. So yeah, we will see what happens with the Warriors moves and NBA free agency as things are kind of dying down now, but still moves on the horizon. We'll see if Lauri Markkanen actually gets moved.
Yep.
Let's talk a little football, Steven. A little Raiders. And this is something we can bring up as training camp progresses or even starts. But I just wanted to bring this up. I brought it up last podcast. Jeremy Fowler was doing his usual weekend reports, and he's talking about the Raiders QB competition. And when they signed Gardner Minshew and, they had Aiden O'Connell on the roster and they didn't end up drafting anybody, I was like, okay, well, it probably will be a competition. But in my opinion, I don't see Gardner Minshew not starting week 1. Now, it could be a whole thing in preseason. I haven't heard really the reports of, it was just minicamp, so I don't know who's playing with the ones. And we'll find out more when training camp starts in a couple weeks here. But I don't know. The whole thing last year with the QB competition of the Niners, I thought was manufactured. I thought that wasn't real. I thought by all means the entire time it was Brock's team. It was just a matter of if he was healthy. And then we found out the day before training camp started that he was a full go. So then that whole narrative kind of went out the window for me. It was more so a battle between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. As far as the Raiders, I think it's in the best interest of the team to have Gardner Minshew be the starter and Aiden O'Connell back him up. That way he can learn. I don't think that's also a bad idea if Aiden O'Connell is playing fantastic in preseason, that he is the starter, and then Gardner Minshew is that veteran presence to help him. But if I had to guess right now, then this could change. I'm anticipating Gardner Minshew being the starter, and that's maybe the obvious thing, but I'm surprised that a QB competition is being spoken about.
Apparently neither of them have been good in camp.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading about it. And really what we're getting back to is the training camp battle back in 2013 when it was Matt McGloin and Terrell Pryor.
Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn was there too, but McGloin and Pryor were the guys that started a majority of the games. Came down to those two guys.
Was McGloin there in 2013?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He was. He won that game in Houston. Yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like we're kind of getting back to that where no one guy is really putting himself in front of the other. Like I think if you had an ideal scenario, you'd know for a fact right now that Aiden O'Connell is the leading guy because we know who Gardner Minshew is. Minshew, very capable backup, can win you some games, but he can be beaten, especially for that number 1 spot. And the fact that Aiden O'Connell hasn't just taken it and ran with it. Not really ran with it, but taken it so far with a chance to run away with it in training camp Yeah, I think that's not a good. I don't think that's a good sign.
Well, I mean, we'll see. Camp hasn't even started yet, so
the mandatory stuff.
Yeah,
where,
yeah. No, I got you.
As much as you can take from that, but it's not exactly a scenario that you want with your quarterbacks.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm trying to think of. There's not really a lot of QB competitions going on in the NFL right now to begin with. Maybe Jacoby Brissett and Drake May.
Yeah, maybe Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, it's not like this is the non-rookie one that I think people will be interested in. Actually, I don't think people care that much to begin with.
I don't think they care at all. I think they'd be shocked to know that those are the only two guys they have at quarterback.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is when it's all said and done, you're just naming Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, and neither of them really bring a lot of confidence in me as far as quarterback position. Let me ask you this, Steven. This is a name that's out there still. I don't think it's that big of an upgrade between these two, but maybe a guy that's actually had some playoff experience. If things are terrible in training camp, what would you think about Ryan Tannehill with the Raiders?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a meh.
Yeah.
Maybe just because you could throw the ball deep, and that'd be pretty cool with Trey Tucker and Devontae Adams, but that's a meh on the scale of 1 to 10. It's a meh.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if both guys are not panning out, that they just bring in a third guy to have a little more competition.
Ugh.
Yeah. But that's the best options you got right now. So it's definitely not Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold or even Brock Purdy from a year ago that wasn't really a QB competition to begin with. I think that we'll be talking about it, but like I said, if either guy's named the starter, I'm just like, cool. Not really. I can't really. When I think of Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, I know that Aiden O'Connell beat Patrick Mahomes a year ago, but Aiden O'Connell was also 0-4 after the first quarter. What did he go, like 5 of 20 in that game?
God, yeah.
So, and he's learning. He very well could be a solid backup in this league. He could be the starter. Who knows? If we're talking about a Aiden O'Connell versus Gardner Minshew battle, then I don't know what we're getting excited about.
This training camp battle reeks of the starting quarterback had a season-ending injury this offseason, so the second and third string are duking it out to see who will start. That's what this reeks of, and it's a gross stench. It's a stench that says we're going to win 7 games this year. That's what that says.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday at the barbecue, and I guess Cody brought up that Matt Miller already did his mock draft for 2025 and has the Raiders taking Shedeur Sanders number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not waiting for that, and I'm not waiting for the Raiders to have the number 1 pick in the draft to get. Everybody, yesterday at the barbecue too, people were pissing me off. Everyone's like, "Yeah, Quinn Ewers is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft next year." I'm like, "Yeah, Quinn Ewers shouldn't be starting for Texas this year to begin with. It should be Arch Manning, regardless." I wonder if the Raiders are hoping to see what happens with Dak Prescott. If things don't pan out with the Cowboys again, and he's like, well, I'll find somebody that's willing to pay me $60 million to be their starting quarterback, and the Raiders like, we'll gladly do that. So I don't know, man. I think yes, there probably is a QB competition between O'Connell and Minshew, but not one that gets me really hot and bothered. I'll tell you that.
It's the saddest quarterback competition ever.
Yeah, it's. It very much reminds me of. I mean, Terrell Pryor had intrigue because of his time at Ohio State, but
the fact that he was really fast, and then your dad was on the radio talking about how much working with Tom House is going to have this guy reach a next level. Remember that? I was listening all the time because and I was like, your dad was like, I was using your dad for like confirmation bias. I was using Greg to be like, all right, let's go. Tom House. Oh my God, he's working with Tom House. What? He's going to be the next great quarterback in Raider history.
Yeah. Behind closed doors, though, my dad was like, I don't know if Pryor could play.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember that. Those are good times.
Yeah. God, Matt Flynn. He was supposed to be he was the replacement for Carson. Carson got traded to the Cardinals. Matt Flynn was supposed to be the guy with Seattle, and then Russell Wilson took his job. And then, they traded him to the Raiders, and think he only played one game and he was awful. Yeah, Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn was good because he threw 6 touchdowns when Aaron Rodgers wasn't healthy in a game.
Yep.
Or he was just resting for a Week 17 game.
He had himself his Tommy DeVito moment.
Exactly. And then I remember Matt Flynn getting cut by the Raiders, going back to Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone, and Matt Flynn won games for the Packers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was just good with Mike McCarthy. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Real quick, I do want to mention this. Very, very sad news yesterday. Kyrie Jackson, a defensive back with the Minnesota Vikings, 4th rounder from Oregon, died over the July 4th weekend. He was in a car with his friends late at night. Nothing sounds like it was their fault whatsoever. It just sounds like they got hit by a drunk driver, and 2 people lost their lives, including Kyrie Jackson. And that's just awful. That guy had his whole career ahead of him, and it was taken from him like that. That's terrible.
Yeah, there was I remember a few years ago. I mean, it sucks for the Ducks family because I remember there was a few years ago when a tight end, very popular tight end, I forgot his name. I think it was like Spencer something. He, I think he was like jumping off a cliff into some water and then ended up hitting rocks or something.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah,
it was just like so sad. And this is this similar type of thing, just awful. And I started thinking like about his parents, like,
yeah,
I mean, not to say like any parent would mourn the death of their son or daughter, not to say they should any more or less,
right.
But like to have your child reach their dreams, get drafted to the NFL, and you don't get to see them live out those dreams. It really, that one hit differently yesterday for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different than Len Bias, but it's kind of this similar situation in the way that a man was just starting his career and going to start a whole new life, and didn't sound like it sounded like he was just in the car with his friends late at night, and nothing was wrong, didn't do anything wrong, and some person, supposedly drunk driving, ended their lives, and that's just awful. So yeah, that's terrible. And there's no easy transition, so we'll just do one here. Have you watched the new Hard Knocks, Steven?
I did. I watched it this morning.
Okay. So this NFL offseason for the New York Giants has been put on display for the whole world to see in this new Hard Knocks. And you follow around Joe Shane, the GM of the New York Giants, as he talks about the offseason with Brian Dable and the owner, John Mara. And it's unprecedented access that I have never seen before in NFL films, because usually you just see the playing season or you see training camp. You don't usually see March in a facility like this with NFL films, because it's so behind the scenes oriented. Like we've seen videos of war rooms now, and that's very fun. I love watching that stuff. But I've never seen like a group of scouts get together and be like, all right, what are we doing with Saquon? What do we think? Do we think we should give him the money? Do we think we should, let him test the market? And that's very fascinating to me. I knew when they'd announced this new Hard Knocks, my reaction was, I'm all in on that. I can't wait to watch that, because I'm a nerd when it comes to football and behind the scenes and how front offices handle things. But I can also acknowledge that to the average football fan, when something like this is released and there's no actual football being played, then it can be very boring. Like, this is the equivalent of putting draft day in movie theaters when there's actually not football being played. That was a huge risk. Like today, you would put draft day on streaming. You would not put that movie in the movie theaters.
Right.
So I'm curious, Steven, you're not as football crazy as me when it comes to this shit, but what'd you think of it?
Oh, dude. I mean, you don't have to be football crazy to love it, but you do have to love football. And I thought I use the same word as you, fascinating, because to me, some of my favorite moments in Hard Knocks, besides just like, the slow-mo of a quarterback throwing a football as a O-lineman hitting the sleds, pads crashing into one another. Besides all that, I do love the angle of the meeting room and the cameras that they use. I love that they don't have you like sitting there with them. It's not like it's cinematic where it feels scripted. It has the camera like right at the end of the wall, and it's just a simple like 2-shot. You have the one of the GM and another of whoever he's talking to. Like the one that's in my head right now is John Mara.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really cool. Like but I do question, like, do teams really want to do this?
That's what I was thinking too, because
like imagine Saquon and watching this and having all of your business put out into the open like that, and they're talking about, and they're not being, they're not being defamatory in any way, but they are certainly talking about whether they should bring him back or not, and looking at other running backs. And I don't know, like if you're doing business, like imagine if the Raiders were on this during the Gruden and Mayock days. It's like, would players really want to go to an organization that seems to be dysfunctional from within?
Yeah. And that's a big risk when you agree to do something like this, because Joe Shane is pretty much the star in this. You see him drive to the facility. You see him on the phone talking to Saquon's agent. The biggest one, and this is where you need trust. You need huge trust from NFL Films that this does not get out, is when he's at the Senior Bowl. And he's hanging out with the likes of Brandon Beane, who's the GM of the Buffalo Bills, and Dan Morgan, who is the new GM of the Carolina Panthers, who he's known for a long time. And he's mic'd up, and you hear him say, like, hey, you want to move up to 6? Anybody want to move up to 6? Like, talking like out loud at the Senior Bowl. And then Dan Morgan goes, you willing to give me 2 first picks for Brian Burns? And he's like, no, but maybe. And they're on the field like talking about this casually, which I'm sure like that happens all the time. But if you're Dan Morgan of the Carolina Panthers and you start saying that shit in January or February when the Senior Bowl is, you better hope that NFL Films does not leak that out whatsoever. That's putting a lot of that's why this is so fascinating, because it's months after the fact. So now no one cares. But if that stuff ever leaked, like that's huge.
Yeah.
So the unprecedented access is very interesting to see GMs converse and talk and actually see a real life version of, the very unrealistic scene in Moneyball where Billy Beane's on the phone, Sabey Sabester, what's going on? And just shit like that. I think it's cool. I like watching it, but I do wonder if this is a one-time thing where other teams would be like, I'm not giving you this access. I don't want this to blow up in my face months after the fact. No,
for sure. No, it takes cojones to want to do this. I love how Joe Shane's got the he's got the quote unquote this guy. He's got this guy down.
Who's my guy?
Like he like when he's introducing himself to people, or Dave Canales, he sees him for the first time since getting that Panthers job. Hey, congratulations. Just watch out for this guy. Watch out for this guy. They're like going to meet Frank Gore or whatever at the East versus West Shrine Bowl or whatever that was. And he's like telling the guy with him, hey, this guy, he talks about running backs. I listen. Look at this guy. He's got this guy down whenever he's in a group.
Yeah, he's like Jim in The Office, where he started doing this guy, where it's like, hey, who's a guy that loves Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley? This guy.
This guy.
And that's another thing too. I wonder if they're going to show behind the curtain them kind of leaking, a smokescreen of them trying to get a quarterback in the draft. Because in the first episode, and I don't know if it's just for the cameras, because there's like on the surface discussions, there's nothing really disparaging spoken about when it comes to the players. But at one point,
Wilkins.
What's that?
Except for Christian Wilkins.
What point do they make fun of Christian, or not make fun, but when they talk?
Well, it's just like if you're going to talk about a critique, when they say that he's not good on third down. When he's like, well, he's a pass rusher, but kind of lacks skill when it comes to third down. You're like, oh, that's not great. I'm sure Wilkins heard that and is not a big fan of that.
Well, what about even when they're talking about Saquon and one of the scouts goes, or actually Joe Shane, where he's like, well, we got 2 major injuries on Saquon in the past, and, we don't know how much longer his body's going to hold up. And that's just honest talk.
Yeah.
But when it's out there to the public, it takes on a different deal.
Comparing him to Josh Jacobs, too, at that time.
Yep. But that's how GMs talk. That's how scouts talk. So I find it very interesting, as I said.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if I'm all for it, because I don't really care whether teams reveal too much or whether they, maybe it rubs some people the wrong way. I don't care. If it's for my entertainment, I'm all in on it. If just as long as it's not, your favorite team who's kind of ruining their reputation by putting all this business out there.
Exactly. Like I'm surprised the New York media hasn't really discussed it, like in clips I've seen, like on WFAN. I've just seen Chris Mad Dog Russo just go on First Take and be like, I could have watched that. You could have paid me to watch that. That's ridiculous. I'm not watching GMs talk. It's a waste of time. But I will say, Joe Shane in the first episode straight up says, hey, look, we were trying to get Saquon back, but we made an investment with Daniel Jones, and this has got to be the make or break season for him. So it seems a little manufactured for the camera to be like, this is what we expect, because I'm sure they say more critiques of Daniel Jones and everything, but they do acknowledge, Daniel Jones didn't play well last year. His offensive line was not great. They even say that in the meetings. He's like, I think one game against Miami, we had a couple of, practice squad guys playing offensive line. And I don't give a fuck if you're Patrick Mahomes or whoever. You're not going to be able to play well with that. So basically, Joe Shane says to the world, hey, listen, we'll try to get Saquon back, but we paid Daniel Jones. And I'm paying $44 million to make sure Daniel Jones is our guy. We got to find that out this year. If he's not, then we're moving on. And which I appreciate it. And that's not anything we don't know. We're not dumb as football fans. We know that that's the expectation. But it's just interesting to hear not, media talk when these guys usually do press conferences. It's actually very refreshing to hear a GM talk to his scouts and be like, this guy's got to put his nuts on the table this year. Otherwise, he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like the defensive coordinator going in and having the new defensive coordinator and doing like a whole ass presentation on what he needs from his defense so that you guys can go get him. Like that's pretty cool.
No, I've never seen anything like that before. That's very interesting to see, like a new DC come in and be like, these are the players I need. And them asking like, does this guy fit? If we went after this guy in free agency, does this guy fit? And he's like, yeah. I want to see more though when they bring up a name. He's like, no, I don't want, or like a person that's already on the team. And they're like, what do you think about this guy? And he's like, honestly, I don't think he's good for us anymore. That's the stuff that I want to see.
Yeah.
But
should be interesting with the next few episodes, though.
No, it should be very interesting. Anything else I wanted to bring up today? Let's see here. Oh, a little pop culture catch up.
What? I thought we were going to do Sharks.
Oh, my bad. I forgot about the Sharks. Macklin Celebrini. It's official, Steven.
Yeah. I just want to bring it up a couple. There's a chance he could have gone back to Boston University, right?
Yeah.
He was a Hobie Baker Award winner, maybe become a 2-time winner. But after they had the prospect and developmental camp this past week, signs his entry-level contract. It's a 3-year deal, as it is for every rookie. So now it's going to be him. It's going to be Will Smith. I believe Quentin Musty is going to be a big part of this thing. This is really cool. This is really interesting. It's been since the Warriors really in the Bay Area. Actually, you could count the Niners in this too, where they were really at the bottom of the barrel, just at their worst. Like it don't feel like they could sink any lower, especially the Sharks though, because the Sharks had one of their worst seasons since they were established back in like 1991. Yep. So historically bad. And now you're seeing these young up-and-comers who are likely going to be playing in the NHL next year. Does this mean they're going to make the playoffs? No. Are they going to be better than they were last year? Absolutely. But are you watching the start of something great? And I think that's what makes this so captivating. Like, it's so interesting seeing all these guys with their baby faces, knowing that in like 5, 6, 7 years, they're going to look like totally different individuals. They're going to look like totally different guys. So it's just wild seeing the start of something. And it feels like they've officially turned the key in the ignition, just to get this rebuild going. They've jump-started it now. Like, they've been stalled for a very long time. You don't even want to call it a rebuild. They've just been in standstill for the last couple of years. But now, they're really getting it going, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, the Sharks are going to have attention this year. And the Sharks don't really garner that much attention in the Bay Area. Like, when they were going to playoff games, I mean, they definitely had interest. but it never was the point where we were talking about them in the same vein as the Warriors or the Niners or the Giants.
Yeah, I think in sports radio terms we weren't, but I think as far as like people thinking like, oh, I got to get to a Sharks game because of word of mouth, I think they were very popular back in the 2010s and stuff.
They were, but not immensely. And I
disagree.
You think so?
Yeah, man. You go to those games, they were packed out every night, and you
were
watching.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
you were watching greatness. Like they were, just because we didn't talk about them on radio or media as much, doesn't mean they didn't garner that much popular. They were huge in the South Bay. Massive.
Okay, that's fair. I think you're going to get that attention a little bit this year with Macklin Celebrini, and it's going to be fun to watch. I'm not even a huge hockey guy, and I watch more hockey playoffs. But I'll go down to the tank this year to go see Macklin Celebrini, and he came on with Tom. We taped with him last Wednesday, right before 4th of July, and very nice kid. He definitely sounds like he's 18 years old. Still learning how to talk to the media and everything like that. But that'll he's got his dad to help him and Rick, and it was a very fun interview just listening to him talk with Tom and just how much of a kid he is. But it sounds like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's going to be ready to go and be the face of this franchise for years to come. So I'm excited to see Macklin Celebrini.
He was destined for this, man. He's destined for it.
Yep.
Then Will Smith. Don't forget Will Smith. Will Smith was, if you look at the top 2 players in college this year, it was Macklin was number 1 because he won the Hobie Baker, but I think Will Smith even had more points than he did.
So Will Smith was their first round pick a year ago, but he did not play this year.
Correct. Yeah, he went to play his freshman year at college, Boston College, and I think they knew that. They knew that he was going to do that, and he signed his entry level draft at the end of May, or his entry level contract at the end of May. So
do you think we get more Return of the Mac references or Will Smith references?
Oh God, that's a toss up. There's not going to be one more or another. Which one's going to get played out?
Probably Will Smith.
Probably the Will Smith one. I don't think even he likes it that much anymore. Like when they asked him at the draft to sing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that was super weird.
Yeah, I know. I remember that now.
He even said it on a podcast later. He's like, yeah, that was odd.
Yeah. Speaking of Will Smith, a little pop culture catch up.
Yeah. Also, after we're done with this, I got something that I think is going to make you very happy, and it's going to be a perfect way to close out this pod. But anyway, pop culture catch up. Yep.
Okay.
That's a tease, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I'm excited. Welcome to Earth. Steven, I finally have watched it.
Wow.
On 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, real quick, my jackass of the week was everybody that was lighting off fireworks at 1 o'clock in the morning. Just stop it, okay? It's super late. And especially the guy that was lighting fireworks off right in front of my window. And I was like, Jesus Christ, if this catches fire, good Lord. And that's how old I'm getting now. And I'm like, stop it, you kids. But I put on Hulu was streaming Independence Day, and I have never seen the film. So I watched it, and I got to say, solid. It's a 90s popcorn movie. It's very cheesy at times. Reminds me very much of a lot of those movies in the 90s where it was different people fighting against a, supernatural force, whether it was, a meteorite coming or, aliens.
Yeah.
It's very much like Armageddon or Godzilla or Mars Attacks. It was fun. It's a fun movie. I definitely would have to grow up with it to appreciate it more. I've always seen the Bill Pullman speech of "This is the day we get back our independence," and or I've seen what's his name? Who's my guy from Christmas Vacation? Randy Quaid.
Yeah,
and he's the guy that gets probed by the aliens and drinks because of it, and then
I can fly, sir.
Boys, I'm back. Or did you miss me? Whatever the line is, did you miss me, boys?
It's I'm back.
Okay,
you had it.
And then for years, I've always said "Welcome to Earth" because that's what I always thought Will Smith said. It's actually "Welcome to Earth." He pronounces it well.
Yeah, well, no, he still says "Welcome to Earth." I mean, I still say it "Welcome to Earth."
No, because that was made more fun of in SNL because they did a whole sketch where Jay Farrow's like, it's very funny where he punches somebody on the set of Fresh Prince and he just goes "Welcome to Earth," And Keenan as Uncle Phil goes, yes, the Welcome to Earth sketch, or the Welcome to Earth reference. That was a solid choice by Will, considering the movie had not come out for quite some time after that. Because, yeah, I remember when I saved that line for Independence Day. It actually made a lot more sense.
Yeah. At the end of July 4th, I hugged my nephew goodbye. He's 3 years old.
Okay.
And I said, remember, Anthony, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. Jesse's never looked more disgusted with me than she did after that.
Well, what did your brother think of that?
He loved it. I mean, come on, my brother literally has him saying, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Nice.
Yeah. So no problem with that.
Okay, good.
Independence Day also has one of the greatest side characters in movie
Which
history.
one?
David.
Oh, yeah.
David.
Yeah. Harvey
Firestein.
Firestein. I don't want to say Weinstein.
David.
He's in the movie like 15 minutes, and then God, that poor son of a bitch. He was just trying to help his mom evacuate, and then
David, why did I send my mother to Atlanta? I gotta call my mother. I gotta call my lawyer. Oh, forget my lawyer.
Yeah,
all time. David.
A lot of cameos in the movie that I wasn't expecting.
Oh God, how about that alien scene? Huh? When they went and see the aliens for the first time, you want to see them? They were in Area 51, and then the jump scare, all-time great jump scare.
Oh, when they're dissecting the alien, yeah.
Oh yeah, just amazing stuff.
It kind of reminded me of in Spider-Man 2 when Doc Ock is getting operated on and his arms start killing all the people.
yeah, it's a similar thing. David.
I got another one for you, Steven.
Yeah.
Made the mistake. Well, not the mistake. It's free. Watched Beverly Hills Cop 4, Axel F on Netflix. Not good.
Really?
Not good. Not a lot of jokes. A lot of references to the old movies. Makes you feel old and sad seeing Eddie Murphy and Judge Reinhold look the way they do now. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in it. I haven't seen him in a minute. I guess he's just a big fan of the franchise, so he wanted to be a part of it. Yeah, they play all the songs from the classic ones. The Heat Is On, Shakedown. There's a random cameo from Christopher McDonald. You know who that is, Steven?
Yeah, Shooter.
Yeah. The thing is, it takes place on a golf course. I can't tell if he's supposed to be Shooter McGavin in the scene, but he's there. Yeah. Unnecessary movie. Did not need to be made. I think we're making too many nostalgia movies these days. Can't stand it. So, yeah. Can't recommend it.
Well, speaking of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I watched Don John the other day. Never seen it.
Got your good vibrations. You never seen it before?
Never seen it.
Oh, I saw it when it came out. Yeah, it's the perfect. It's basically a movie about if Jersey Shore people grew up.
Yeah. If like Mike the Situation was addicted to porn.
It also justifies why men jerk off.
Also, I can't really. I to be honest, maybe it's because I'm a little older now, but I could not buy Joseph Gordon-Levitt as some New Jersey Italian American Guido guy. You know, I just couldn't buy him as in that role. Hey, yo, she's an 8? Nah, man, she's a 10. She's a 10, bro. 10.
I would say when the movie came out, he was kind of coming up as like the cute kid in the movies. He was just in 100 Days of Summer prior to that, and Batman and all that.
Oh,
so girls were buying him as that guy because he got buff for that role. But yeah, as an Italian guy, I was like, he's definitely. I'm not buying him.
Yo, she's a 10, bro. 10.
Best part of that movie though is Tony Danza as his dad from Angels in the Outfield.
Yes,
and he's like, "Hey, yo, John, I can't work the TiVo here." It's like, "Dad, it's 2013. You don't need TiVos anymore. I still use a TiVo."
No, it was TiVo that he was arguing for. Hey, you want to see this play? You got to go back and see this play.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forget.
Dad, you could show me on the TiVo. You could show me on the TiVo, Dad. How do I work the TiVo? I don't know. Yeah. All-time script.
I want to say he wrote that too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Wrote and directed it. Watch that. Catching up on the Bear right now. Bear's always awesome. Although the first
I need to
it's coasting right now. I'm kind of more waiting for something cool to happen. But
yeah, I need to get up on the Bear. I need to figure out what next show I'm going to watch because I'm on the last episode of Peaky Blinders.
Yeah,
and I guess the last episode is an hour and 22 minutes, so it's basically a movie.
Well, you watched like 40 hours worth of TV. What's another?
I'm not complaining about the length. I'm just like, I got to prepare myself because you usually expect it to be an hour and there's 20 minutes extra. So when I usually time it out. Okay, I'm just going to watch Peaky Blinders for an hour. I just got to remind myself the last one's going to be a little more time.
Fair enough. Then I also saw Kinds of Kindness in the theater the other day because it was the start of the heat wave and our internet was out from like 3 o'clock until 7. And it just so happened that Kinds of Kindness was playing at the movie theater at that time. Very strange. It's like separated into 3 different stories, and I'm sure they're connected somehow, but I couldn't connect them at all. They seemed just like 3, almost like an anthology series, except it was just 3 separate movies inside one movie. It was bizarre. Yeah,
and it's it's
Yorgos. I am Yorgos.
I am Yorgos. It is what's his last name? Yorgos Matos, the defensive end for the Niners now. He is the director from Poor Things, and if you thought that movie was weird, apparently Steven says this movie is much weirder. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to the theater for that one. It's a big ensemble cast though, right? It's Emma Watson, or not Emma Watson, sorry. It's Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. If you've seen this director's work, then I'd recommend it. But if you haven't, then I'm not going to recommend it. If you've never seen this director, it's like, it's just so strange.
Yeah.
So weird.
That's fair.
All right. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
All right. So, I guess Jables and Cage.
Yep.
Handing out their Tenacious D award.
Hello, it is Tenacious D here with Drew Holiday. Drew, you have won the Tenacious D MVP award. How does it feel?
Man, it's an honor, Look at that beautiful thing, just how long the shaft is, and those basketballs down there at the bottom look beautiful and bronzy. It's really a dream come true.
If anyone's a baller, it's you, Drew.
And that's Tenacious D. Over and out.
So I did see this earlier today. I love that Drew Holiday is playing around with them, and that should be I don't know if they're planning on any new music. I've heard rumors that Jables and Cage are trying to do another Tenacious D album, but if they just did like a podcast where they just talk about music or basketball, because they're huge basketball junkies, hence the name Tenacious D. And they have basketball players come on the pod, I would love that. And it seemed like Drew Holiday was willing to be goofy with them. He was talking about obviously their dick-shaped award. So yeah, no, I love that.
I don't think that those Nike Air Monarchs are really the shoe of like the dad, but whatever those things that Jack Black's wearing, like those are the ultimate dad shoe right there. Those slip-on brown ones that someone always wore back in like the 90s. You haven't really seen them too much. I think he's bringing it back. Fashion.
Oh yeah, he's a fashionista. Jables usually likes to rock a nice like wolf or a cat t-shirt.
Yeah.
And Cage is usually in flip-flops and a tank top.
I love it.
So they're usually comfortable. I haven't seen Jack Black used to do a video game YouTube series called Jablinski Games, and he hasn't done that in quite some time.
Missing out on that. Oh, this sucks. Kind of breaking, I guess, but Kevin Durant has a minor calf strain and is sidelined to start Team USA training camp in Vegas.
Oh, that's too bad.
Mild calf
I
strain.
wonder how they'll get by without him.
Oh, that would have been cool seeing LeBron, Steph, and KD though. That would have been
No,
sick.
they'll do it. That's the question. Is it beneficial for Kevin Durant to potentially injure himself even more? Because calf strains, that's what led to his Achilles tear. Should he just sit this out now the rest of the way and be healthy for the Suns, or does he owe it to Team USA?
I wouldn't want to make that decision.
That's the dilemma.
Tough.
And isn't it ironic, don't you think, that Steve Kerr is the one that may have to tell him you can't play?
It's like rain.
Rain
on a
on
sunny
your wedding
day.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, Steven, we got to we got to get Elena on here eventually in the next couple of weeks here for you both to talk about and compare and contrast the hellish nature of preparing for a wedding.
I think we need to bring Jessie on for that. I think she'd have more of a say in how that works. Because
all right, that's fine. It could be just your opinion, woman, and you and I will just step away for a little while.
They could just talk about wedding stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, that'd be funny if like Elena just goes on and about all the shit that she has to do for the wedding, and then you're like, yeah, Jesse, your thoughts. I don't do anything with the wedding.
Yeah. There's gonna be a couple answers like that.
All right. Well, Steve and I will be back on Wednesday to talk about whatever develops in the world of sports. Coming up, it's coming close. Training camp. It's a few weeks away. And I'm actually getting excited for it. I usually am not a huge training camp guy, but I need a little something. So we got and the wide receiver show I think is coming out later this week. I think on Wednesday.
That's right. Yeah.
We won't have that watched by then, but yeah, we'll see who's in that. Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, George Kittle,
Debo.
So we'll be watching that.
St. Brown.
And then after that, Steven's going to be going on a little trip for his bachelor party. And I'll be going to Del Boca Vista. And, people in the chat will be like, Derek wasn't invited to the bachelor party? I was. And I feel bad. I feel bad I'm not going. I feel bad. But got to see my mom. So I hope you understand, Steven.
I understand.
Okay, good.
Sort of. I did ask you back in in January, but
I know I know you did, and I didn't realize the timing of it was the same time I need to see my mom, so I apologize for that. But Steve will have a great time. I'll be in Del Boca Vista. I'll probably try to do a couple of shows with Alon, just because we're getting closer to training camp time, and a few guys may get some contracts or whatnot before that happens. So we'll pop on. Maybe something happens with Ayuk by then. But we'll see you guys on Wednesday before we depart. And we'll take it from there. So thanks everybody in the chat. The Ernie 1, sorry I was not there for your birthday party. Happy birthday, sir. Ernie 2, AJ Cruz, Tacky was here briefly. My guy Greg Silver was here. And I believe that's it. Oh, and Skills. I think Skills was in here for a little while before. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. That is the show for today. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion, man. Hey, that.